You're watching Talk with Audrey. Welcome back. Before the crisis, the legal sector was already undergoing transformation driven by economic, demographic, regulatory, technology, and competitive demands. Those forces are going to continue to drive the change in the industry, and with the impact now amplified by the COVID-19 crisis. Wolters Kluwer conducted an independent survey, and joining me to discuss the results of that survey and how they impact the future of the law profession, Dean Sonderegger, the head of the Wolters Kluwer Legal and Regulatory US. Welcome, Dean.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining me. Let's talk first about Wolters Kluwer Legal.
Yeah, so we are a content and information provider in the legal space. And so we provide both content and productivity solutions, if you will, to law firms and corporate legal departments. So the idea of how does technology overlay the practice of law and how is that changing is kind of at the core of the things that we're focused in on, which is what has led us to look at this topic and perform this survey now for the second year in a row.
So with all the changes that are happening, I think just about every industry has been impacted in one way or another. What about the results of the 2020 survey?
Yeah, so I think when you look at legal, legal technology has been an area of investment and focus in the market right now. So you've seen about $1 billion a year of investment over the last several years in this space. And I think it's an area that's ripe for technological transformation and change. And so I think that what we were looking at in the survey is to say, is this something that's being felt by the attorneys themselves, particularly if you think about attorneys working on the billable hour and productivity improvements being something that chips away at the number of hours, what's going on in the market itself. When we surveyed 400 attorneys across the US and Europe, and what we found is that 2 out of 3 attorneys feel like at this point in time, in the next 3 years, you're going to see significant transformation of the way law is practiced in the US and in Europe. And I think really resulting from this investment in technology starting to take root in the practice of law.
So are we talking about less face-to-face contact and interaction and more technology like everyone is doing in order to speak to clients and even argue cases before the court?
Yeah, I think you see a couple of things. I think you see certainly communication and collaboration, both with clients and with other attorneys, and as you mentioned, going to court. And I think that's actually a really positive development is the access to the court electronically, particularly for people that are individuals in small claims court and things like that. But I think that that's a trend that you see. I think that the other trend you see is really the overlay of the artificial intelligence, big data kind of technologies to be able to go through all of this information that sits in the marketplace and give you some type of insight or guidance. So you can think about that and going through court cases so that if I'm going to court, I can say, what's the likelihood I'm going to be successful given a particular fact pattern? And should I pursue a particular course of action? And similarly in contracts, if I look at an employment contract, for instance, what are the prevailing terms for employment contracts? And so when I'm negotiating, am I getting a good deal? Do I feel like I'm being treated well on that? And so it's the data driving insight and the attorney guiding that is really the change that you see in the overlay of technology and law.
So do you think that these changes were going to come about eventually, or do you think that the pandemic has really accelerated the new way of practicing law?
I think it's a bit of both. I think that I think these are trends that were in play. I would argue that in a lot of cases, what you've seen with the pandemic is an acceleration of changes that were already in play. I think electronic access to courts, for instance, and Zoom conferences, we were all doing some of those things, but there was it wasn't an imperative. There was no burning platform to do that, if you will. So I think that that's really what you're seeing is the acceleration of stuff that was in play. I think the other thing that you're going to see is you're going to see some changes to licensure that occur in the attorney market that increase the supply of attorneys and providers. And I think one of those is the idea of paraprofessionals or licensed legal technicians, if you will, which I would equate to being something like a nurse practitioner in the medical field. And then the second thing being, I think you'll see changes in who can own law firms. So right now you have to be a lawyer to have an ownership stake in a law firm. I think you've already seen this in Arizona quite recently. I think you'll see that lifted. So you'll see accounting firms entering in the legal space in a meaningful fashion. I think you'll see corporations start to do that, all of which will increase the supply and drive prices down.
Very interesting. So are there any other priorities that the legal professionals have in mind that you've identified?
Yeah, so I think that when you look at what happens with technology, technology automates routine tasks that we do, and it can pull out additional insight. I think that the role of the attorney then starts to shift a little bit more to role of an advisor, and leveraging that technology. And so it's more about how do I deal with the very specifics of the client right now, which good attorneys do already, but focusing in on client needs and then also being much more proactive. So if I have a client and I see changes in the law or the rules or the regulations, can I reach out to that client proactively and help them, guide them through things that could be beneficial to them? So I think you're going to see that shift in how we define value when legal professionals interact with their clients, much more so as a result of these changes.
And when you say changes, there are a lot of changes coming down the pipeline for sure.
A lot of changes, yeah.
What's sort of incredible as you look around and you see how industries have been impacted during this pandemic and how they've had to pivot in order to continue to provide service to clients. And the legal profession is no exception, right?
That's absolutely right.
And where can we go for some more information, Dean?
Yeah, so the study that we've done is available to anybody who wants to download it. So the easiest thing to do is just to go to your search browser and type in Future Ready Lawyer, which is the name of the study. And it should come up as the first result. At least it was this morning when I tested it. And it's free to download, chock full of information and statistics. So I think it's a great read.
And if you're an attorney or in the legal profession at all, it seems to me that you might want to rush to your computer and download that survey. Dean Sonderegger, the head of Wolters Kluwer Legal Regulatory US, has been my guest, and we've been talking about some of the changes in the law profession that are coming down the pike. They're here, and they're going to help you probably be a better attorney. Thanks so much for joining me.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
Well, there's more to come on Talk with Audrey. I'll be right back.